Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Standout. My main joy in World of Warcraft, and certainly producing YouTube videos for you guys, even though they're like demonetized and stuff and are supported by Patreon, is teaching you guys how to get into raiding, because I personally consider it to be the most fun you can have in nearly any video game. Recently we looked at other MMOs where the raiding standard, certainly at Mythic, just isn't quite where it needs to be. It's a niche thing to World of Warcraft, and as a result, the satisfaction that I gain from it is enormous, and I want to share that with you guys. So Standout is a series I did a long time ago where if you can individually affect the performance of the raid, I'd like to show you ways of doing that. Right, so we're going to be starting with Abyssal Commander Sivara on Mythic, and we're going to be looking at pretty much every boss in this instance, because the only reason I stopped doing the series was mainly due to a lot of the bosses that were on Mythic were kind of pack bosses. You had to move as a group all the time. So standing out individually just didn't really exist. You just had to basically stay as a clump. You think about Jaina, you move as a ball all the time. You think about Unat, you kind of just do everything that everybody else is doing. And there's no real way of individually affecting things. So the only bosses I'm going to skip are going to be Blackwater Behemoth and Radiance of Ashara. Those bosses are generally considered to be super easy. And again, they're pack-based bosses. You move as a group and you do the whole thing as one unit. There's no real individuality there. However, Abyssal Commander Sivara does have some good stuff. So we're going to get started here. Now, the main issue and why Abyssal Commander Sivara is basically considered to be the harder of the first three bosses is because people don't really understand where the damage comes from. So a lot of people will assume that the big damage in this fight comes from the AoE should you reset your stacks. So you'll notice my UI here, so everybody's clear on what we're looking at. You can see this Frost logo here. That means I am a Frost debuffed player. And on the other side, you can see really there a blue marker, blue being Frost. And on the right, on the other side of the boss, you can see the green marker, and these people have all got a green tint to them. That means they're toxic people. So first and foremost, you have to, very initially, you'll notice we all start in a clump and then we split into two groups. Are you Frost debuffed or are you toxic? Now, if you're toxic, you need to stand still, and if you're Frost, you need to keep moving. Right, that's something you need to do. You need to be constantly moving. So you'll notice as well this bar I have here called Frozen Blood. So if you're Frost debuffed, if you stand still, you'll become frozen and stunned, leading to a massive reduction in DPS output. This boss has a huge amount of health, considering it's the first boss. And in fact, if you come here as a regularly prepared player is how I would put it. So you've got some Benthic gear, you've done some heroic or mythic farm from Battle for Dazur Allure or something like that, then you might find you're actually hitting the enrage timer. The Berserk timer is pretty quick. I think it's about 6 minutes. I can see it in the bottom right here, which means that when we did this on our alt group, even though that alt group was very highly geared, we still hit the enrage timer for a number of reasons. Now, how can you stand out here? Because everything that I explained to you is just like the basic mechanics, and you're going to notice that this Frost debuff does mount up. Okay, now here's the twist on this fight that people really don't get, is that you would think, because the mechanic is, if I'm Frost debuffed, so I'm a frosty man, if I get hit by something toxic, I start AoE pulsing the entire raid. So a big part of this is people, especially this overwhelming barrage we're going to see here, you see the pins come flying out. If I was to get hit by the toxic one, then I would start pulsing on the entire raid. That does that to many people at once. AoE's the whole raid down. So it gives you the impression that being hit by the opposite color is devastatingly bad. That is not true. That is not true. And that's the big trick of this fight, actually. In fact, what actually is the case is that the more stacks of this you have, the way more raid damage that you take. If you just have people playing what would be common sense, which is, okay, I'm going to avoid, as I'm a Frost guy here, I'm going to avoid absolutely every toxic element I can that I shouldn't take, then I should be relatively safe. And that is absolutely not true. In fact, it is way more deadly to allow these stacks to go over 4. So I consider 4 to be the absolute limit, regardless of if I played perfectly. Now, this is the important thing. Regardless of if I played perfectly, I still will not go over 4. As you can see, these stacks are mounting up anyway. I haven't been hit by anything here, but I still have 3 stacks. And you can see over here that some people have 6 already, 5, 5, 4, and 4. So people are starting to mount up very, very quickly. And the weird twist of this fight is that the beginning of the fight is actually the hardest. You'll notice that we drop these patches relatively close to the boss. And that's because until we have inversion, which is coming up in about 20 seconds, which is still a fair way away, then the patches, if I wanted to hit a toxic patch, I have to travel quite a long way. So again, if you have the thing that drops the patch, which we'll see later on, your instinct is to get as far away as possible. That actually makes it much, much harder. So how do you stand out here? Let's get to this point. How do you stand out in this fight? Well, being proactive with your stack reduction. What I mean by that is some guilds will wait for somebody to tell them to go and get rid of their stacks. So in order to get rid of my stacks, I need to intentionally, right now, take toxic damage, which will then pulse AoE on the entire raid, but it will reduce my frost stacks back down to 1. So that means I'm clearing my personal stacks. Now, in your head, you're thinking, like, I don't want to overdo that because it's going to AoE the entire raid and everyone's going to die, especially if multiple people do it. And that is correct. That is absolutely correct. That is what's going to happen. However, the opposite is also a problem, which is you just ignore your stacks until somebody tells you to do it. And one of the biggest reasons I've seen people wipe to this when looking at streams and all that kind of stuff is they literally don't reset until someone tells them to do it. Instead, what you could do to stand out is actually go, what am I at now? 3 stacks? Well, I really don't want 4. So at 4, I'm definitely going to reset. But the raid damage is really low right now. Like, the raid is super healthy. That means that I'm okay to reset. So I'm going to key up on voice comms, and I'm just going to say resetting, right? I'm also going to pay a little bit of attention to this bit here and see, are a lot of people about to reset? Because that means that a lot of people are going to start AoEing. Basically, it's working out, it's relaxing into the fight, being very chill, and then figuring out, is it a good time for me to reset, right? That's all it's going to be. Now, this is a farm kill, all right? So I would really look forward to the Lady Ashvane kill, although it was a farm kill and we one-shot it super cleanly last week. It was a horrific pull, very scrappy kill. So we're going to look at Lady Ashvane later. Now, here's the thing that you shouldn't do. We did call this out on comms because this is like a really silly decision. So this debuff here, you can see he's got this circle around him, he's pulsing. He tried to do something smart, but unfortunately it kind of screwed himself. Is that nobody can get to this because we have to run through frost patches to get to him. A good idea would be come over here. If we want to come over here, that would have been fine. More people can help because he's going to explode and you want people to share in that. So I'm going to sort of like just not help because that is super scary to get to. It's super scary. I'm going to get a lot of stacks trying to get over there. It's just not helpful. So here comes inversion. I'm still at 3 stacks and I'm kind of watching as people start resetting. I'm moving away from the inversion patches. Now what you'll see is I'm at 4 stacks now. This makes me super uncomfortable. But what am I noticing by looking around the screen? Everyone's fine. So what do? I go and reset. I'm not being called to do that. In fact, the tank has 8. You can see Hunter has 5. Several people have 4 at this point. But I'm not being told to do this. In fact, I'm not even on this list, which is likely what the person who is controlling the resets is using, is something like this list. I'm not even on the list. But I can see the raid is really healthy. We haven't got overwhelming barrage coming for a little while. So what I could do is I can go and reset. And there's the barrage. And we're fine. I'm down to 1 stack. Nice and easy. Here comes the dodge. Now, it sounds easy, but honestly, so many people don't do this. They wait until they're told. They wait for somebody to help them out. They wait for somebody because they're not sure if it's safe or not. Yet a quick glance at the raid frames is going to tell you this information. So we're going to go just watch this again, but this is really how you stand out in this fight, is being very proactive. And what you'll find is that you just end up taking way, way less damage than anyone else and just being an absolute star to the raid. So I got an extra stack there. I'm looking at the raid frames. It's pretty good. I'm going to go and reset. Like half health, one of them was me. It's fine. I have Hellstone. I have stuff. I know I'm going to reset, so it's totally fine. And you can see I'm keeping my stacks nice and low. Here comes the Christian Reverberation. Overwhelming barrage. You can see I'm actually the incorrect spec for this fight because we just cleared trash and I really didn't think about respecking. I've just made it onto the damage meter there. Then my damage meter is heal sotty, as you can see there. But you can see the raid is very healthy again. Now what this means is I set myself a target of 4, but it doesn't mean I have to wait till 4. If the healers are in a really chill mood and I'm at like 3, I'm going to reset on 3. I'm just going to keep my stacks nice and low. Because as I said, the vast portion of the damage, assuming people are playing correctly and not being like hit all the time, is coming from people simply just holding onto their stacks until they're told. So I'm going to move through the boss here. I'm going to get knocked there, which was a little scary because that's where you move with his debuff. But also gave me a reset, and now I'm going to chill out over here as we move into the latter part of the fight. Now, if you play this way, and everyone kind of plays the same way, and I'm going to point out something else here that's about to happen. You'll find that the raid damage is considerably less, and you'll require less healers. So now more and more people, in our guild at least, because we did this fight on really badly geared alts, everyone had to learn the fight much more than they did on the first pull, where we kind of just blasted and zerged this because our guild was very over-prepared and over-geared. So we had to learn how to do this fight with it taking minimal damage. And in fact, what ended up happening after this one is like we could 4-heal this without any issue whatsoever. So this is, again, overwhelming barrage. People really struggle with this. The easiest thing in the world is to move where something just hit, because the shards are all waiting to come out and they're staggered. So you can see this icicle just flew out of the boss. See the way I just move into where it went past me? Nothing can ever hit me here now. I'm totally fine. There's no icicles that can fill that gap, which means I could totally just go and relax there. It's fine. And it, again, prevents you taking extra stacks, extra damage. And you can see how healthy the raid is overall on this fight by following this very simple system, which is just chilling out, relaxing, and making sure that you're resetting your stacks nice and early. It really can't be overstated enough how many times I see people like ending up with like loads of stacks and they're waiting for somebody else to tell them to reset. That's what they're waiting for. They're not going to reset on their own accord instead of looking like right now. I should have probably reset, but the boss was about to die, so I didn't bother with it. Again, we're watching and then moving into the spot. You see the way I just shifted over into the spot where it went past? Even though I was safe in the other one, I just want to be 100%. And that's going to finish off the boss for us nice and easy there. So that's how you stand out there, is to be very proactive. I reset my stacks like 3 times there. And all of them were in any danger of doing anything. And in fact, for those of you who did Nithendra in the Emerald Nightmare, it's the same thing, because you had these mind control things stacking, and the way you stopped the whole raid being mind controlled, just as you stopped the whole raid AoEing each other here, because everyone's got so many stacks they need to reset, so you end up with like 4 or 5 people resetting at the same time and doing lots of burst AoE damage, is to decide for yourself on a go-by-go basis. Is it time to reset? Is it safe to reset now? Like, just thinking about it, like, I've got 3 stacks. I'm not locked into this hard number of 4. I'm not, like, drilled down or held down by anything. If I know the raid's healthy, I'm going to reset now because it's going to be meaningless to the healers. They don't care. And that means that I'm good for, it's going to stagger out all these explosions. It's a simple thing, but it really helps out. And I encourage you guys to start being more proactive with your resetting. Certainly if you're somebody who's looking to attempt this boss. And if you're progressing this boss and what you're finding is a lot of people are resetting their stacks at the same time, and it's causing huge amounts of raid damage. What you might find is healers saying something like, wait till we tell you. That's bad advice, right? Or people are taking so many stacks. So people get lost down this road of trying to figure out the problem, and the obvious problem is everybody's AoEing each other all the time. Try and be proactive with that, making decisions, and you'll notice your stacks are always very low. You'll always take way less raid damage. You won't end up like sitting at like 20 to 30% health, hoping for a heal, popping hellstones, popping the large health potions. You're not going to find yourself doing that, because even if you have to go and soak, which is a big thing, you have to help somebody soak, and you've been sat at, say, 4 or 5 stacks, you're going to get all the explosion damage from helping that guy out. Then you're going to go up to like 6 or 7 stacks, and then you're going to be really punishing yourself. Whereas if you just regularly reset, what you'll find is you're willing to go and soak some people. You're going to go up to maybe 3 or 4 stacks because you already reset, and then you can go and reset again nice and easy without taking too much damage. And if your whole raid kind of plays that way, what you'll find is this boss just becomes a complete walkover, because it is the main source of damage and why people were bringing 5 healers, which, as you said, you can see there, the Disc Priest like spam their asses off, but the Paladin, Resto Shaman, and the other Paladin have all got like half mana. They could keep going forever and ever and ever. So I hope that helps you out. We'll be looking at Lady Ashvane next. Pay attention for that kill, because it's pretty wacky what happens to be there. Thank you so much for listening, guys. I'll see you again.